What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports morning show. I am your host, Mangone. I'm here with DC, and we are talking some MLB. It's the Mangone and Friends show, as you like to call it, DC. So I'm here as a giant, as always, and I'm ready to get the baseball takes from you. Yesterday, it was overall profitable day. I didn't win in every single sport, but overall took some money home, and excited to kind of dive into the MLB. We have a 5-gamer, and it's a pretty good one. We talked, I think, on the first Mangone and Friends show, and it wasn't the greatest baseball slate when I jumped on with you. But this one, it's a pretty good one. 5 games and some really good pitchers. DC, how is it going over there?
Things are good, man. And yeah, if you're a baseball fan, if you're watching the show, you probably are. It's a good day. We have a nice early 5-game slate, even some afternoon games, and I think a 7-game slate, kind of as the main one. So yeah, you can be sweating, watching baseball all day, and hopefully end up in the black.
Yeah, should be a good time. We have a core slate as well, so that adds an interesting wrinkle to it. This slate starts at, I believe, probably about 2.5 hours from now. We do not have all the lineups, so we got probably some coming in shortly. Don't think we have any yet, but they'll trickle in. DC, do you see any weather on this slate? What are we looking at here? I mean, is there anything really noteworthy that you've seen so far?
No, nothing on this slate. I think the Oakland game has weather later, but I don't even know if that's on a main slate at all. I think that's one of the kind of the afternoon smaller ones. But yeah, this 5-gamer looks like it should be good, and finally warming up a little bit. Throughout the country, obviously the Midwest and East Coast has been cold, as we typically see this time of year, and kind of put a damper on baseball if you got to worry about weather. Also, scoring's been way down. I think I mentioned this maybe on the first show that we did together, but people smarter than me have studied it. We're looking at another kind of looks like a deadened ball. Ball's not flying as far. We're seeing reduced home runs, reduced scoring across the league. And then that combined with the cold weather has led to, a lot of low scoring games. We've seen, a lot of stacks I had confidence in kind of falling short. So it's been interesting to kind of follow those trends. Hopefully that turns around sooner rather than later. I'm a fan of, especially for DFS purposes, high scoring slates, right? We don't want a bunch of pitchers duels, especially pitchers duels that don't even necessarily involve like starting pitchers, right? Just bullpen games where they're shutting it down. So hopefully the offense turns around soon with the warmer weather.
Yeah, I've seen some people. I think Big T was one who tweeted he wanted steroids back in baseball.
Yeah.
DC, I think when I was in either college or high school, I wrote like a report of why we need steroids like back in baseball or something, just because I thought it'd be fun I did the research, and then after doing all the research, I was like, these dudes are making the decision to spend all this money, right? If they want to juice up and, make millions of dollars, let them juice up and make millions of dollars and entertain us. I want to be entertained. So let's get some hitting back in baseball. Maybe juice the balls, not the players, but let's get something going, right? I don't want to see.
Home runs are a lot better than warning track flyouts. I'll say that.
I mean, chicks don't dig the strikeout, right? They dig the long ball. They don't want to see a dude just up there throwing heat. They want to see the ball flying out of the park. So hopefully we can get that. DC, again, this is going to be a pretty interesting 5-game slate. Sometimes on these 5-gamers, we have just like one pitcher at the top, and like you look at the pitcher and you're like, man, like, this is just clearly the guy, right? And like, he's going to be like a 50% owned option on the slate. It's a pretty decent pitching slate. Who stands out as like the clear cut number one? And do you think he's like the clear cut number one? Because on DraftKings, we have to roster 2 pitchers. So sometimes like when it's those slates, it can become like a game theory type slate. Like sometimes there's a really bad pitcher that ends up becoming chalk, and stacking against them is really intriguing. So sure. What's your thoughts here on the number one pitcher on the slate? Who do you think that guy is?
Yeah, to answer your first question, I don't think there's a clear-cut number one. We can talk about the 3 guys at the top. We'll start with Shane Bieber, who I talked about him before his last start. Real concerns with him in terms of whether or not he's fully healthy. Missed a big chunk of last season with the sore shoulder, had a slow start to spring training. Velocity has been down in both his starts. Results have not been great. Like, this guy won the Cy Young, was that 2020 or 2019. But if you look at his results recently, like I mentioned the velocity, also that the strikeouts have been down. The pitch counts have been down, 72 and 79 in his first 2 outings. and didn't, get through the inning. This guy used to be a 6, 7, 8 inning type horse. I think it's indicative of kind of where he's at, that he, 4 2/3 against the Royals, 5 1/3 against Cincinnati. Those are two of the very, very worst offenses so far. Offenses that have done really nothing. Bieber's been okay in those starts, but now he gets your White Sox, right? He faces the best offense that he's faced so far. And so, might not necessarily work out. You never know. It's one game of baseball, but Bieber actually a relatively easy fade for me up there. I have serious concerns about him going forward. Brandon Woodruff has been horrible through 2 starts too. But I do have more confidence in him to bounce back. He had a decent outing last time out against St. Louis. Still, the strikeouts haven't really been there, but he is at home here pitching in the warmer weather. So I do definitely prefer Woodruff, 9,700 over Bieber, 10.8K. And then Charlie Morton's got the Dodgers, and he hasn't looked exactly sharp to start the season. Next on the list, you have Marquez and Eflin, who are going to do battle in Coors Field. So pitching is tricky. I would put Woodruff as kind of my clear number one, but you don't even feel that great about him. But he does get the Pirates at home. I think he is the number one guy for me.
Okay, so number one for you is Woodruff. I sort of agree. If Bieber is going to gain ownership, DC,
I'm not playing Bieber. Yeah, it's not.
You're not playing him, right? But people are, right? He's going to gain ownership. From what I'm looking at, it seems like he will gain ownership, especially when raw points can be a thing. If you see the offense is down and let's say there's not elite bats to pay for, because there is a good set of pitchers today. If you look at names alone, Bieber, Woodruff, Morton, Marquez is not really the pitcher to pick on in Coors. There's also, I think there's an elite pitchers umpire there, and hitting's down, right? So maybe people don't want to go to Coors as much, but definitely people will probably go there. The Dodgers, Tony it's Gonsolin, but I always feel when he's in there, they always have their best bullpen guys right behind him. Is that always the case, DC, with him?
It should be with the Dodgers. They got obviously certainly a deep bullpen. I mean, Gonsolin's gone 3 and 4 innings in his first 2 against the Braves. They did keep the Braves salaries down. I'm sure we talked about it yesterday where they were deflated from the matchup with Walker Buehler, we thought, but they didn't readjust them today. All the Braves are, I think they all might be the exact same price that they were yesterday. DraftKings just we'll just run it back against Tony Gonsolin. So that's another interesting dynamic to the slate. But yeah, I mean, Gonsolin's not a very exciting option at 7,600. It's tough out there for sure, especially on DraftKings where you got to play too.
Yeah, and some of the other guys Zach Eflin, obviously one you can pick on, but not a guy you're dying to go after, especially with this Colorado Rockies offense. I mean, they're not the greatest team. Dallas Keuchel, one you can pick on, but he also can be a good real life pitcher, just kind of grind through a game.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Keller, Vlad Gutierrez, they're the 2 guys that seem the worst pitchers on the slate. I do want to talk to you about Mackenzie Gore a little bit, because Mackenzie Gore is one of those guys. People might be playing baseball. Maybe they've been playing hockey. Maybe they've been playing all the other sports, right? There's NBA going on. Maybe they're grinding the playoffs and they say, let me play the early baseball slate. They may not know who Mackenzie Gore is. And so far he's been pretty good. Can you give a little bit of a breakdown on him and why people should play him and just not skip his name?
Yeah, he'll probably be on my main team along with Woodruff. Mackenzie Gore to me looks like the optimal pairing. So Gore, former number one, overall prospect, maybe number one pitching prospect a couple of years ago, but just lost it completely. Had the yips, just a lost season last year, but has looked good so far. Just the one start, but it did come against the Braves, who obviously have a pretty good offense. Got through 5 1/3 innings, only 3 strikeouts, only 73 pitches. But I would expect him to build on both those numbers going forward. The stuff looked good. The talent is kind of unquestioned with Gore, and it seems like he's got in a better mental place than he's been over the last couple seasons. So he's a real talent. Looks good right now, and does get a really good matchup against the Reds, who just aren't doing anything. Right, their best hitter, Joey Votto, doing nothing so far. Jonathan India is out of the lineup hurt. They obviously got rid of Nick Castellanos in the offseason. It's a really, really rough offense for Cincinnati right now, who's doing almost no damage on a nightly basis. So I think Gore makes a ton of sense, frankly, in all formats, especially on this shorter slate. So yeah, Mackenzie Gore, I think you can expect him to pitch pretty well. Again, a little bit of a wild card. We've seen him pitch, a grand total of 5 innings at the big league level. You never know exactly what you're going to get from pitchers like that, but on this slate, he certainly looks like a top option to me.
Yep. Definitely think that he's going to be a top option, someone that I look to get into my lineups. Guys, if you could please like and subscribe to the video, helps us out a ton. We would appreciate it. Definitely want to get our Twitter subscribers up as well, get them up to 15K. Reason why is once we do that, we're going to give away some swag. So I know Big T did a post about it. So all you do is like that tweet, retweet it as well. So if you guys do that, we would definitely appreciate it. We want to give away some swag to you guys, already given some away. I've also made the, deal that, hey, if you guys, sign up first time here and you, send me a DM, it's your first time signing up, I'll send you a piece of swag. So that offer's not going to last too much longer. I'm sending the message to Amber in the next couple of days. So once that happens, we're not going to go back to it. So DC, you know how great the swag is and how hard it is to get. So why wouldn't you sign up now if you haven't?
You got to take advantage of that. The swag is difficult to acquire. I had to travel all the way to Kentucky to get my own, but I do have it now. High quality gear. So yeah, don't miss out on this sick offer from Mr. Mangone over there.
Yep. Also want to mention, and because we have you here, I can ask you about it because I think you've been on one of the podcasts. JT, he has a podcast that he's been doing. I believe you've been on it. Steve Boyd, and you guys just talk some MLB, right? Like once a week, just to kind of give some breakdowns on some stuff. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about that, DC?
Yeah, JT's Sweet Spot podcast. I think I was on the first episode. I think just it's once or twice a week, just talking baseball and anything else in the sports world or otherwise with JT, a very entertaining host, fun guy to talk to and listen to. So make sure to check that out. It should just be on the Run Pure Sports podcast feed, right? Wherever you listen to that, the Sweet Spot podcast with JT. Check it out.
Yep. Should be a good time. Let's keep talking about these pitchers a little bit longer. Before I do that, I do want to make a quick announcement, actually. So, Kurt, he does our Euro League stuff on the at Run Pure Sports, and there's EuroLeague stuff. So if you haven't signed up at Run Pure Sports, we have all these different sports, right? I mean, we have League of Legends if you'd like to play that. I mean, Bruce does CSGO. I mean, we got it all. USFL. We have all the niche sports, and they absolutely crush. Kurt's done a great job with that over there. They're going to give away some tickets in the chat. So this is what I want you guys to do. We want to give away tickets to members. We love giving them to members. If you are one, we're going to give them away in the EuroLeague NBA chat. So go over to that. Check that out. We're going to do a giveaway over there. So if you want to kind of get a ticket, that's the place to go. Go put a comment in there or ask how you can get it. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to give away 4 tickets. So you got to get in on that. It's just a free roll. So who doesn't like a good free roll? Definitely a good time. So go check that out. And hey, who doesn't want to sweat basketball during the day too? You can sweat it at night and during the day, get some day baseball as well while you're prepping for your golf lineups for tomorrow. And then you get to do all the cut sweats. I mean, who doesn't love a good day sweat? Am I right, DC?
That's right. What's the deal with golf this week? I'm not the biggest golf guy in the world. It's like the 2v2.
It's a team event, and they do alternate shots. So it's definitely interesting. And it's like, for instance, like Ryan Palmer, he always finds a way to like swindle his way onto like the best like player in the world. He had John Rahm the past couple of years. Now he's got Scotty Scheffler. And a lot of them are just like, hey, like if we're from the same country, like Adam Hadwin and Adam Svensson, they're like, oh, we're like the 2 best Canadians, so we'll join together. And some of them are like
players get to choose their own partners.
What?
Do the players get to choose their own partners? Is that how it works?
Yeah, they get to choose their own partners, but like they don't like some of them are like powerhouses. Like I think Cantlay and Schauffele, like they're really good friends, so they decide to go together. Morikawa and Hovland, they're a powerhouse combo, but not all of them. Like for instance, like Dustin Johnson's not showing up to this. Like a lot of the top golfers don't show up typically to this event, but I think some like the younger guys are still doing it because they've done it in the past. So like sometimes like this event is one of those like if you're like already like one of like the best in the world, you just don't show up to this one. So it's if you go below like the 7. It feels like once you get below 7.5K, there's only a couple of combos left. Like the 6K range is disgusting this week. I haven't listened to the shows yet, but I would love to hear them break that down because it's not going to be pretty. But it's one of those events too. I think there's like altogether like 60 teams and like it gets cut down to 30. So it's not your typical like you have like 50 options that can get through the cut, right? I mean, technically only 30 can get through. So like that 6-6 could get pretty low.
Sounds interesting. Might have to jump in the golf streets this week.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be an interesting event. Should be a fun sweat, of course. But yeah, let's dive in. I will say the Pin Seeker show, that'll be tonight. So be sure to check that out. We'll still have that show going on for some golf content. There's already one up on the channel that happened last night with Hoop, AP, and Snyder. So do not miss out on that. Let's talk more about these pitchers, though, kind of give some final thoughts here, DC. So for me right now, as we've talked about it, I think Woodruff and Gore is my favorite combination, right? If I was playing one team, and I typically don't feel like at pitcher, I need to get like super different. I do that more with my bats typically. So I just kind of eat whatever pitchers I want and call it a day. That's my current combo. I also think Bieber is going to be pretty high owned, where already I'm fading him. I think I'm doing a pretty, good job of just like being contrarian there. Like, I don't know. I do think a lot of people are going to do a Woodruff Bieber pairing and not the Gore as much.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Vegas, the market, whatever you want to call it, still seems to have some faith in Bieber. Decent favorite, relatively low total for the White Sox. Still obviously a big name, and you can find the value. We talked about the Braves. They didn't change the Braves pricing. So you can get Matt Olson at 3.4, Austin Riley at 2.9. I think that Bieber Woodruff pairing with the Braves kind of just frankly a little bit ridiculously underpriced Braves stack could be a good way to go. Personally, no Bieber for me, a full fade there, but I get it why people would go there. And maybe that's the edge on the slate, is fading a Bieber who does appear to be a little bit broken to me. I wouldn't be surprised to see him struggle in this one, maybe even put on the IL shortly. Wouldn't shock me at all with Bieber. I do think he is he's struggling right now. So he could turn it around. You never know, but I'll be betting against that. Could also be interesting if you really want to get contrarian. I'm a Herman Marquez fan. Let me down a little bit last start, but he's had plenty of good starts in Coors Field over the last few years, and there hasn't been a lot of offense in that Philly Colorado series so far. I think the Phillies and the Rockies are going to be the most popular offenses. So on a shorter slate where there's not that many good pitching options, if you wanted to get weird and play a Herman Marquez, gives you good leverage, and I think has a chance to pitch well against the Phillies. Maybe they roll out a worse lineup than we've seen, given it's a kind of day baseball after 2 night games. So that's an interesting option for me too. But I'm with you. The preferred pairing for me, Woodruff and Mackenzie Gore of the Padres.
I may be going full game theory today, and I don't think it's that crazy. I might go Marquez, possibly like on some teams too. Like I think Gore Woodruff's my favorite. I like the idea of putting some Marquez in there just because he's the pitcher that if I am in Coors, I like taking him, and I like taking him against offenses that even though they have high power, right? Like the Phillies, they have similarities to the Yankees, a lot of power and pop, but they can strike out. This isn't a team that like just, doesn't strike out at all. You can definitely get some Ks here. So I think there's some good opportunity with Marquez.
Marquez knows how to pitch in Coors Field, right? That doesn't mean it's always going to work out for him, but that's his home park. And he pitches well there plenty, especially right now where, like I mentioned at the top of the show, the ball's not flying right now. Home runs are hard to come by. And that's the main thing you got to worry about with this Phillies lineup, but it's not really happening for them. I mean, how many combined home runs do Realmuto, Harper, Castellanos, Hoskins, Schwarber have? Like 5 on the season, something like that. It really hasn't been working for the Phillies. Is this the day to turn around? Maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Marquez threw a gem here. So yeah, I think I'll mix him in my lineups as well.
Yep, I like that idea. I think I'll do the same. We haven't talked about Charlie Morton. Like Charlie Morton is really talented, right? I mean, we shouldn't just completely ignore him. What do you want to say about him here? Because I do think he can definitely get the job done here against the Dodgers. It's a scary lineup. It's a 5-game slate. The only issue I have with this slate is like, it feels like the wrong 5-gamer. Like if it was one of those 5-gamers where he was going to be under-owned and like the pitchers were like not the best, then I think I'd have some interest. I just think that's one of the concerns for me. How about you?
Yeah, Morton probably 4th on my list. I think a reasonable play. I don't really pick on the Dodgers very often, frankly, hardly ever with opposing starting pitching. But on this 5-game slate where there are, I think most of maybe all the pitchers you could kind of, pick nits with about being a little bit nervous about their performance today. Morton at 9,200 is fine. look better in that second start than the first. It's been a little bit of a rough start for him, but he is a guy that I do expect to turn it around sooner rather than later. So yeah, no problem with Charlie Morton.
Yeah, with you on that. Don't think I got too much else to say at pitcher. Do we miss anything else? I think we covered most of it, DC.
Yeah. So Steve Boyne just messaged me the playbook. The early playbook is up on the site for those who want to read more. I haven't checked it out myself, but he does have pitcher stats and thoughts for members only, of course. But always good to check out the playbook. Check out the different resources that you have if you're a member on the site, and hopefully we can nail down these pitching options before the slate gets going.
Yep, definitely with you on that. And DC, actually, I just went through. There's some lineups out. So so far we got Brewers and Pirates. Gary's the guy we got to look for, DC. If Gary has a Brewer in his lineup, he's shaving his head, right? So it's a 5-game slate with not the best offense. And they also have a 5 implied total. So, Gary, I'm looking at you. Don't you dare roster one Brewer. I don't even want a one-off in your lineup. So I'm looking for it today. I'm going to have to find out what contest he's in. And then the White Sox lineup is out. And we got old Gavin Sheets in the 4-hole today instead of, further back. So that lineup is Anderson, Robert, Abreu, Sheets, Grandal, Vaughn, Berger, Engel, and then Mr. Mendick. He's in the lineup. So overall, I think that White Sox lineup, that's one that I'm a little interested in. The prices are really expensive too. If we don't like Bieber, let me just ask you this, because this is my selfish question. I like playing the White Sox a lot. When you can get like a high-powered offense that's just like can hit a bunch of bombs on a shorter slate that's going to be unowned against the most popular pitcher or one of the, why wouldn't they be a good option on this slate?
No, I'm with you. I'm in on the White Sox here. Typically when when I have questions about a pitcher's health or performance going forward, like I do with Shane Bieber, again, maybe he turns it around, proves me wrong, certainly possible. Well, what he's shown so far, there are legitimate reasons for concerns. What you want to do there, or at least my thoughts, kind of from a game theory perspective, is load up, right? I think you want the full stack. You want the 5 White Sox, because it's kind of a bet, as much as it is a bet on the White Sox, it's a bet against Shane Bieber, right? We're expecting a lesser version of Shane Bieber than other people. And if we get that version, this White Sox team certainly has the power to do the damage, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think you necessarily want the bottom 3 here. Berger, Engel, Mendick are passes for me, but those top 6, Anderson, Robert, Abreu, Sheets, Grandal, and Andrew Vaughn, who's off to a pretty good start, all look good. And if Bieber's back, right, maybe he's his normal self today. It could certainly happen. Your stack goes down in flames, but I don't think you necessarily want like 1 or 2 White Sox players. I think you kind of, on any individual lineup, you're either, you're kind of betting against Shane Bieber. So I think that makes sense from a game theory perspective.
Yeah. The only reason you might want to load up on not load up, but get exposure to the bottom of the lineup is it's going to say if you need salary relief, like maybe a Burger at 3.2 or like a 3K, but I think you actually probably use the salary relief somewhere else throughout your lineup. Like just punt the position down low.
On the Braves, man, the Braves whole lineup is salary relief.
You're right. Yeah. That Braves lineup definitely looks good for the salary relief, of course.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good way to go about it. We're going to dive in. We're going to go position by position, but I want to ask you my selfish question about the White Sox. I think I'm going to be in on them today.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely excited to kind of roster them and see how that goes. Let's move on and talk about the catcher position. And at the top, Grandal seems like a good option in that 5-hole. Also, JT Realmuto, in cores, I will never say it's a bad idea. He is going against Marquez, though, so keep that in mind. Will Smith, another name that's intriguing, but against Charlie Morton. Austin Nola could be in the 2-hole against Vlad Gutierrez, a pitcher that we would be down to target, I think, a little bit on this slate. So we haven't talked that much about the Padres, so I think Nola's definitely worth a mention if he's in the lineup. But with catcher, and this is good to call out, the catcher position, you never know who's going to be in the lineup of the day. We might mention someone on the show that's a good play, and then he's not in the lineup as a catcher because it's day baseball. They like to give guys days off, especially after a night game. So that's worth calling out. And on the flip side, there could be another catcher that pops in the lineup that's 2K. That's a good option that we didn't consider. That's really good salary relief. Like Travis d'Arnaud, if he's in there at 2.2K, I talked about it yesterday. A 2K catcher that can hit a bomb against a guy like Bueller. I don't know if he hit his home run against Bueller, but I know he got a home run yesterday. So guys with power for 2.2K, they can be worth it. DC, what's your thoughts on this catcher position? Because on a 5-gamer, it's actually not a bad position.
Yeah, assuming he's in there, I think Darno at 2,200 is the savings option. The other one would have been Tyler Stevenson of the Reds, but he's on the IL now, which is further boost to Mackenzie Gore, who already would have had a good matchup. I think Grandal, the top guy for me at 4,400. I expect JT Realmuto to get this game off, if I had to guess. Tough right-handed pitcher in Herman Marquez, and Realmuto rather has played 4 games in a row. Now it's a day game after a night game. I would be a little bit surprised, frankly, if Realmuto was in the lineup. So I'm kind of, at least for now, operating under the assumption that he'll be out. Will Smith did get the day off yesterday, so he will almost assuredly be in the lineup against Charlie Morton. I think he's a good way to go. But yeah, for me, Grandal, if you're spending, is the top guy. I do like the Brewers a little bit. Mitch Keller got some talent, but it's still not really translating for him at the big league level. So Omar Narvaez at 3,400, very good way to go. And then all the way down to Travis d'Arnaud, if he's in the lineup, at 2,200. So those 3 guys for me, for the most part: Grandal, Narvaez, and Travis d'Arnaud.
All right. Yeah. I mean, catcher, like I said, it's not always good on these 5 gamers, but pretty good today. And we need to wait for lineups. That's going to be key and important. If we see any lineups throughout the show, we'll definitely call them out. Don't think we have any new ones so far. The next ones we'll be waiting on. There's a little bit of a gap. That Braves and Dodgers game starts at 3:10 Eastern. So maybe waiting a little bit on those lineups to come out. Same with the Coors one. And then 4:10 Eastern is the Reds and the Padres. So don't know how much more lineups we'll get on the show. DC, here's another question for you. This is like a strategy question. I think these apply to the main slates as well. I'll be doing the main slate with you Untitled tonight as well. So we can talk about this, I'm sure, there. But like these games that start later than the lock time, do you sometimes get like lower ownership? Like, let's say all the lineups are out, but we're still waiting on like the Padres lineup, and they have a 5 implied total today. They're a pretty good team that you can get exposure to. Yeah. Do you see those offenses just gain lower ownership because of that?
Yeah, it certainly seems like it, doesn't it? You see that obviously on shorter slates. You see it on main slates too. People just, they don't get the little DraftKings check mark next to them to make sure they're in the lineup. Some people, like to make their lineups and go about their day. So they'll play the early players who they know are going to be in there. So yeah, I think stacking, West Coast games, or especially on day slates, though, you can get the lower ownership and you don't necessarily, you get a little bit better weather, right? Most of those California parks, Oakland, San Diego, the LA parks, they play better in the daytime than they do at night, just due to the kind of the weather conditions out on the West Coast. So I think that's especially true during the day. The Padres, like you mentioned, the team total near 5 against a bad pitcher in Vladimir Gutierrez, definitely makes some sense today.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to ignore the Padres today. Like, Manny Machado's been hitting pretty well. Had a good game yesterday too. Someone that I liked a little bit. We talked on the show about. So I think this Padres offense is definitely one that I'm going to look to get some exposure to today on this slate. Let's go over to the first base position. Let's talk about Reese Hoskins, 5.4K. He's definitely a good play here on this slate. Jose Abreu, he is in the BVP club, and it's not incredible. It's 8 for 30, but there's like 3 home runs. I mean, people love looking at that. I don't know if that's going to affect anyone. I'm not saying I'm out here touting that and saying I'm going to be Oliver Abreu because of it. I more so would be Oliver Abreu if I think Bieber is not right? If he's not doing well, because if a pitcher's not right and they're throwing just, slower pitches over the plate and they're meatballs, Jose Abreu is a guy you don't want to throw BP to. So that is one reason to maybe play Jose Abreu. And he's going to be low owned, right? No one would be on him. Matt Olson seems like the guy that I think is going to get some ownership. I can see Rowdy Tellez in the 4-hole getting ownership as well. I think those two are going to be interesting options. And this is going to be more of a position to save salary today. Do you agree or disagree here, DC?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will choose to save salary. You mentioned Tellez hitting cleanup, 3K. Both San Diego guys, Eric Hosmer, Luke Voigt, if they're in there, I don't know if they'll play both guys, but 3,300, 3,200 in a good hitting environment and bad pitcher. For the Padres, you've got 2 first base options for the White Sox as well, right? Gavin Sheets hitting cleanup, and then Abreu, expensive, 5,300. I think most people will take the platoon advantage with Sheets and the savings. So you should get Abreu, I think, really low owned. I don't love playing him early on in the season. He's like a notoriously slow starter. we're kind of seeing that a little bit again, a slow start for him. But again, it's more of a bet against Bieber than it is on Abreu or any of these individual White Sox. So I do like the ownership discount that you get with Abreu. And then, yeah, I mean, I think spending at this position might just make you a little bit contrarian in general, because there are such good cheap options. I think most people are a lot of people are gonna spend up for Bieber, Woodruff combination. So spending on a guy like Hoskins, Abreu, Freeman, even CJ Cron could make you a little bit different right off the bat. Because with guys like Olsen, Sheets, Voit, Hosmer, Tellez, even Owen Miller down there at 2,700 does look like a position people might try to save some salary at.
Yeah, I agree. First base, not typically that position. Sometimes you see guys, you see so many at the top and you're like, I don't know which one to fade. Like, I need to get exposure. Like, you might be playing like 10 lineups. You just keep spending up at first base for so many different guys. This does feel like a good spend down position today, where in tournaments, you can make the case that spending up could be the contrarian route, but also you can make the case, hey, saving that salary for Matt Olson and grabbing that home run to kick things off is not a bad idea. In the chat, Jordan says, with the ATL bats being cheap, I could see 2 stud pitchers being very chalky. And like, I agree. We talked about that. It could be a chalky route. I think you're going to see the 2 stud pitcher route be chalky, and then you're going to see one of the stud pitchers with Gore. I think those are the routes that people are going to go. Now, just because they're chalky does not mean it's a bad approach, but it's just worth mentioning that that seems like the approach that people are going to take on this slate. Let's head over to the second base position. Before we do that, guys, subscribe to the video. Helps us out a ton. We have tons of content over here at Rumpier Sports. We got a premium show today for Saber Sim, so be sure to check that out later today at 1 o'clock. We got the MLB Swing for the Fences show. Me and DC will be back on to talk about the night slate or the main slate with Titletown. Then you have the Pin Seeker show. That'll be a premium golf show tonight. So subscribe to the channels to get notified when we go live. And also, we want to give out those plays of the day, right? We don't want to withhold the plays on the Mangone and Friends show. Am I right, DC?
Definitely don't want to hold up the plays.
No holding up the plays. We want to get those likes home. So push those likes. We appreciate it a ton. Let's talk about the second base position. At the top, Max Muncy. He's the most expensive guy. DC, I believe ever since you said he can't hit, he hit a home run. And then I feel like he's been doing well since. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, he hasn't. Look at Max.
Has he died off? I'm trying to see.
He's hitting 139 with a 560 OPS. He's not doing much.
That's fair. He did get the home run the day you just said it wouldn't. I will say, but it's okay. He hasn't been as good. I thought he had been. So you're right. He's still not hitting great. So people probably won't spend up for him, especially against Charlie Morton. Jake Cronenworth seems like an interesting option if you want to get exposure to that Padres offense. A lot of times, like the cash game guys, right? They just want to get a piece of all the different offenses. So second base isn't a bad spot sometimes. Be like, hey, let me grab part of the Padres offense, or let me grab part of the Braves offense with Ozzie Albies. Those are 2 guys I think people might go to today on this slate. Are you going there, DC? I think you're probably going to Ozzie Albies since you seem like you're on the Braves today.
Yeah, hard to resist that price tag for Ozzie Albies. We do prefer him from the right side. He's a switch hitter, but at 3,800, he's just underpriced, and a guy that's performing well this season. 5 home runs and a steal already on the year. So he's a good way to go. You mentioned Jake Cronenworth for the Padres. Again, I do really like the Padres quite a bit today. Can obviously go to Coors Field. You've got Brendan Rodgers and Gene Segura. Segura pretty expensive, but if you're on the Phillies, might want to include him. And then I do like Colton Wong quite a bit. Not the most power in the world, but he is leading off against Mitch Keller. You can make a case for Mitch Keller being a bottom 2 or 3 pitcher on the slate for sure. So he makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, definitely like the Albies call. I feel like when I do my a lot of my stacks, Albies is going to just pop in there a ton, just because I don't think second base.
I think he's going to be the most popular second baseman, but rightfully so, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes DC, I think people like I'm all for like getting different and everything, but sometimes at positions, it's like second base just isn't great. And if I'm already being different with my stack, it doesn't matter from there what gets thrown in, right? Of course, would I like that offense to not do as well? Like let's say it's like a chalk offense, right? Like for instance, sometimes I think people, they just say, let me X cores completely out. And this is where I think we can talk some strategy. I think Big T does a great job using the optimizer. And if you haven't used Saber Sim, you can go into Saber Sim and kind of build out your lineups instead of just completely Xing out Ozzie Albies and being like, he's too much chalk, out of my lineup. Let's say his projection is for 10 fantasy points. Knock it down to 8. And when you knock it down to 8, then run your teams. And if you're knocking the projection down, he's still popping on your teams. That is telling you this position is a weak position. And he is still popping in there because of that alone. And if you're using the Saber Sim tools correctly and you're using all of like the variants or the sims are being ran, you're also using the uniques. Your lineup might be unique enough where Ozzy Albies is still a good play and you can pop him in there. What's your kind of thoughts on that, DC?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to kind of see where the projections take you. Certainly a thing you at least want to look at and consider. Saber Sim, obviously an invaluable tool. So for those that don't have it, sign up through our site and get access to that. It will improve your game, no question about it. But yeah, I mean, sometimes positions are so weak that you just got to take not the free square, but sometimes you got to take what the site gives you, what the slate gives you. To me, that looks like a lot of Ozzy Albies at second base.
Yep, I tend to agree with you on that. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them away in the chat. Richie Small said he's won like 5 of the past 6 slates, so you love to see it. He said he played Minnesota, the Rockies, like you said, and Smash. So thanks, Richie. We appreciate having you. So if you have any questions, though, guys, feel free to ask, even if they're just like strategy questions. They could even be about baseball. Like DC's been watching all the games and has a ton of knowledge. So definitely here to help you guys out with that. Let's talk about the third base position, though, now, DC. And like Jose Ramirez at the top against Dallas Keuchel. He's definitely someone I'm interested in. I'm also interested in Manny Machado at that 5K range. But there are some other guys we can go to, right? Austin Riley, who I think you're going to like. He's only 3K. Like, the site just didn't adjust. I don't know what they did. And Austin Riley at 3K sounds like something that I'm interested in. Are you interested in that, DC?
Yeah, you got to be. Just way underpriced for Austin Riley. He's actually been a reverse splits hitter over the course of his career. So he's actually hit right-handers better than lefties, gets a righty today in Tony Gonsolin. So yeah, Riley, pretty clearly the value option there. You'll see that, I'm sure, reflected in the ownership, but still, I think he's a good option. Don't have the Dodgers lineup yet that I've seen, but if Edwin Rios is in there, 2,200, he's a power bat. If you're not on Charlie Morton, I will say though, spending up on Jose Ramirez seems like a pretty good idea today. I'm not normally someone that loves rostering hitters against Dallas Keuchel just because he's such a ground ball machine. But man, offense has been struggling throughout the league. Jose Ramirez has not been. He's just been red hot. It seems like every day he's going off. 5,400 for him, but just given how well he's obviously seeing and swinging the bat right now, I think if you can make room for Jose Ramirez in your lineup, which you definitely can, I think that will likely prove to be a move you don't regret. That kind of upper mid tier looks good too. Machado, of course, another guy swinging a super hot bat right now. You got to like the Padres in general against Gutierrez. And if you're going to Coors Field, I do definitely prefer left-handed hitters against the Phillies starting pitcher, Zach Eflin, Ryan McMahon, I think hitting 5th today. We just got the Rockies lineup. Yeah, McMahon in the 5-hole, 4,500 in Coors Field against a guy who does really struggle against lefties. So yeah, Ryan McMahon makes a lot of sense to me as well.
Yeah, lineup is Blackman, Grichuk, Bryant, Cron, McMahon, Rogers, Hilliard, Trejo, and Nunez. So that's the lineup. I assume we'll get the Phillies lineup shortly. So hopefully we get that on air and talk about it. Curious to see what happens with JT Realmuto. I thought that was a really good point that you brought up, that I think sometimes gets overlooked when people are building out lineups, and like if lineups come out late, that can certainly mess some people up. So definitely that's a good call out by you. Third base, though, definitely going to be a position where there's going to be some runs scored, right? I mean, Justin Turner, even at 4-2, I think he could have a good game. There are some good bats at this position. So not a position to completely ignore. Let's head on over to shortstop. And you talked about red hot hitters. And, I think Tim Anderson has been pretty hot. Now, it's not the perfect matchup for him, right? If you look at his game log, 17, 2, 26, 6, 8, 8, and 7. One thing I noticed when I kind of built out some White Sox stacks with DC, like Tim Anderson is one that might be like of the main bats. It's like him or like Robert that kind of gets kicked off. That's like one of those two. Now, you can play both. It's certainly possible, but that is an expensive price tag. So I kind of want to get some takes from you at the shortstop position because, like, hey, I just play Trey Turner for $100 more instead, who's like, an amazing bat. I play Willie Adames, who's $1,000 less. Going up against Keller seems like a good one-off if I want to, get some exposure to a really good offense. There's definitely some shortstops that I want to get exposure to, but they're all at the top. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of good punt options. So do you have any punts for me?
Yeah, I think you'll see, I'll answer the punts, but I do think you'll see Anderson pretty low owned up there, right? Going up against Bieber, who we know is going to be fairly popular on the slate. It doesn't have the platoon advantage, and I don't know. I think you'll see Anderson much lower than Willie Adames, probably lower than Trey Turner. So yeah, spending up for Anderson to be contrarian does look like a pretty good option. The middle range of shortstop is pretty barren, frankly. There's just not a lot there. I do think there are two good cheap options, though. One of whom is Dansby Swanson. Again, there's value Braves at every position, which is going to make them a popular way to go for sure. Because you start filling out your lineup, right? And you notice, you already have 2 or 3 Braves in there. It's like, all right, well, I might as well add a 4th and a 5th to get the full stack because they're all super cheap. So no doubt the Braves will have inflated ownership, but still $2,500 Dansby Swanson is pretty tempting. And then again, no Padres lineup yet, but I'll be surprised if CJ Abrams isn't in there. Guy with a lot of speed, some power, 2,400 against Gutierrez. Abrams typically only plays against right-handed pitching, but they do get a right-hander today in Gutierrez. So Abrams should be in there. Certainly a very talented player. So yeah, don't overlook him, especially if you need savings at the position.
Yeah, DC, this is kind of a strategy question that came up in my head right now. I think with the bats not hitting as well right now, and I'm totally with you. I like the 5-man stack typically, but I think this time of year, especially when like it's colder, you can get away with not doing 5-man stacks as much. So let's say you're building out a lineup, right? And like one thing I looked at was I was like, I had Tim Anderson in there, and then I said, well, if I want to do a 5-man White Sox, I could put Danny Mendick at the shortstop position. I don't love it. It's a 9-hole hitter that won't be owned in a position that's not great. Sure, I could do that. What's your thoughts on like, if I see that I need a little bit of money to add one more power bat, right? If I'm doing like a 4-man stack, let's say I'm trying to do like a 5-2-1 or trying to do like a 5-3. If I see that I can go down to CJ Abrams and make it like a 4-3-1, and it kind of gets me like an extra like power bat to kind of get me over the top that could hit like 2 home runs. Do you see value in like ditching the 5-man stack right now for a 4-man stack to get an upgrade in another position?
I think so. And, I don't know for sure that this is correct, but to me, the shorter the slate, again, 5-game slate today, the less you have to worry about getting the full 5-man stack, right? Because there's just less chances for an individual team to totally break the slate, put up 10 plus runs. I mean, how many teams have we even see put up 10 plus runs? It feels like it's happened just a handful of times this whole damn season. So
one reason I don't mind, one reason I like it, DC, I think this is a good point that you just mentioned. We don't see all these runs scored, but you were mentioned earlier, if you're going to do like a team like the White Sox, I like the 5-man stack because it's not going to be owned. I think when the offense isn't owned, you want as many bullets as possible at low ownership to get you over the hump. And I think that's going to be key. Like, I think if you're playing like the core stack, don't be afraid to do a 4-man right now, just to make it a little unique. Cause a lot of people are doing the 5-mans. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah, it's good. This is definitely an interesting slate. I think I've seen people doing the 4-mans. I don't think they're the craziest things to do right now. I've seen people win on shorter slates. Like if you're playing night slates, like 4-man stacks, I think can make sense at times. I think they're good approaches to take. So, like for instance, if you don't want to do a full Atlanta stack, right? Let's say as you build out your lineups, DC, you're just like saving too much salary. Don't feel like you have to force the 5-man right now. I think you can get away with the 4-man, but I wouldn't go any further than that. I don't want to do crazy like 3-3-1s. And I think it's mainly on shorter slates. On the bigger slates, I still think I want to make sure I'm doing those 5-man stacks. It's something to think about for sure. Let's see. We talked about shortstop. Do we miss anything else, DC, or you want to move on to the outfield?
Yeah, shortstop. That's pretty it. I do think pretty much it. I do think spending up there could be good, and then at the cheaper spots, Swanson, CJ Abrams, 2 guys I'm looking at.
Yeah, I like the Swanson calling that Brave stack. I think that's a good cheap option that you can go to if you're stacking up the Braves. Let's talk about the outfield position. Obviously, some big bats today. I like my boy Luis Robert. I'm going to get some exposure to him. I think he's a good option. Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, those are 2 at the top, though, that people are definitely going to look at and definitely get exposure to. I think Bryce Harper comes in as the highest owned outfielder probably on this slate today. Christian Yelich, a pretty good option at 4.8 against Keller, who we haven't talked about the Brewers a ton. If you're doing like a mini stack of the Brewers, Adames and Yelich, that seems like a cash game thing to do that you can definitely get some. I guess they're chalky, but I think if you're eating like, some low ownership in other spots, I think you're perfectly fine to throw those guys in and they're really good plays. We talked about the Padres a little bit. What about Trent Grisham at 3.9K? Seems like a good price tag. And if you are thinking of attacking Dallas Keuchel with a Jose Ramirez and you want to do a mini stack of the Indians, or not Indians, the Guardians, why Why not Franmil Reyes against Dallas Keuchel? Franmil Reyes crushes lefties. I think a Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes mini stack is a pretty good idea on this slate. Who are some other outfielders you're interested in, DC?
Yeah, of course, the Phillies guys I think are at least going to be projected to be the top plays. Schwarber, Harper, despite not terrible starts for those guys, but I don't think they're like slam dunks against Herman Marquez. So I don't really have a problem baiting him. You mentioned the Indians, both Franmil Reyes, Ahmad Rosario, a little bit slow starts for them, but I do like the Indians in general. I think they could go a little bit overlooked. Obviously, no one's been hotter than Jose Ramirez. Rockies guys all look good to me. Connor Joe out of the lineup, so just be aware of that. And then, you got to go back to the Braves here. They have to be mentioned at every position. Eddie Rosario, 2,500, should be hitting 5th or 6th today. Marcell Ozuna off to a good start. He's 3K flat. And Tony Gonsolin, not a terrible pitcher, but certainly not someone that I'm avoiding either. A couple cheaper Indians. Miles Straw, I believe he's leading off. He's had a really productive start to the year at 3.8. And then I think Oscar Mercado, is he in there? Yeah, he's hitting 8th at 2,500. Got 3 home runs already on the year. Looks like he's improved a little bit this year as well. So definitely some options kind of up and down the pricing spectrum. We talked about not needing to go with the full stack, but I think most likely most of my teams will include the outfielders, at least 2 of them kind of in my primary stack.
Yep, definitely think you want to get some exposure to the outfielders. They have pretty good options within your stack. There's a lot of good ones to go to. We didn't talk about Tommy Pham. He's 2.6K. If he's in the lineup, DC, I know Gore is not someone I'm trying to attack, but hey, it's a revenge game too for old Tommy Pham. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he's fine. He's got he's very streaky. He has this degenerative eye thing that's going on. So I usually like to take him when he seems to be seeing the ball well, which I'm not sure is right now. I will say though, if you're fading Mackenzie Gore on any individual lineup, I do think Gore is going to have some pretty high ownership. I would want to grab a Cincinnati Reds batter too. Certainly Pham, 2,600, going to be hitting in the top half of that lineup. Definitely a good option despite struggles so far. Nick Senzel, 2,500, another guy. I might actually slightly prefer him. Even Aristides Aquino got big power, is 2K flat against the lefty Gore. So some good options for the Reds if you're not playing Mackenzie Gore on any individual lineup.
All right, DC, we gotta get some likes in before we kind of get on out of here, guys. We got 173 watching, 64 likes. So let's push it home. If we can get a nice push home, we'll give out those plays here. And obviously, baseball, it's a great time of year, DC. We got tons of good stuff over here at Run Pure Sports. You and I are going to be on the MLB Swing for the Fences show at 4:45. So subscribe to that channel so you can get notified when we go live with that. DC, why don't you tell the people a little bit about some of the baseball stuff that we have, some of the product, Stevie Boynton, he's in the chat and he said you guys are arm in arm with pitchers in the playbook. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about what the playbook is, right? If you sign up at Run Pure Sports, you get core plays so that you'll get DC's 5 guys he's going to have in his lineup. You get Stevie Boynton also has a handedness chart. We have a stack chart. We have everything. But what do you think about the playbook? How can you describe it to people to tell them a little short version of it?
Yeah, you pretty much get everything you need in the written content. The playbook basically breaking down all the games, all the plays that who's ever doing the playbook on that day. Is higher on today. That's Steve Boynton. We have Gary, AP, a lot of different people contributing to the playbook, including myself. You've got core plays. That's going to be 4 of us on both DraftKings and FanDuel, kind of giving out our favorite plays of the day, the guys that we have most exposure to. I've got a player pool now up on the chart. Usually play 10 to 20 lineups. That lists my top stacks. That'll list all the pitchers that I have exposure to in order of my exposure to those pitchers. And obviously, that's not just going to be my highest projected guys. It's taken into account ownership, game theory, all that stuff. So you've got all that. And then you've got, of course, Discord too, for any further questions that you have. So we've really got you covered on the MLB content, whatever you need, whatever you're looking for, we should have it up on the site, always making improvements to that product. So yeah, any suggestions questions, feel free to hit any of us up, and we'll try to get anything out there that the people need.
Yeah, DC's a man of many hats too. He'll break down the weather for you as well. So, which DC, you may need to put on the meteorologist hat a little later. So I don't know if for sure yet. We'll see, but
we'll be back together. We'll break it all down.
Yeah, just want to make sure you're ready for it. That's all. I can't have anyone else in the industry beating you to the weather. I want to make sure that you are on top of it. It'd be great too. One thing you should do would be amazing is if you did like you had like a picture of you in a greens, like with a green screen pointing to stuff, and like you tweeted out like your own weather report. I think you should do that one of these days.
Should I do a weather report every day?
I think if you did that, but like you also have to like have like a green screen, like you're the guy, right? In like a suit and like point to stuff, like make it really funny and ridiculous. I think that would be good for Twitter.
Sounds like a lot of work, Mangone, but maybe we can make it happen.
It is a lot of work, but is it worth the likes? That's the question, DC, on Twitter.
I'll check if I have a suit, then maybe we can do it.
All right, cool. But that's going to wrap it up for us. We're going to do the plays of the day, though. We'll make sure to do that for the people. We don't want to take it away on the Mangone and Friends show. That would be hurtful. So, DC, let's go to you first. Who do you got as your plays of the day?
Pitcher, I'm going with Mackenzie Gore out in San Diego. There's going to be obviously ownership on him, but that's the nature of a 5-game slate, and a lot of these guys I don't really want to play. I believe in the talent, love the matchup, home game. So yeah, Mackenzie Gore for my pitcher play of the day. Hitter, I'm going with Yasmani Grandal for the White Sox. I'm in on the White Sox in general. Catcher, a weak position. I do expect JT Realmuto to sit out this game, making Grandal, for me, the top option on the slate. Gets to bat from the left side. I'm not a believer in Shane Bieber right now, and he should get low ownership as well. So Mackenzie Gore and Yasmani Grandal.
Yep. So I'm going to give you something similar. I'm going to go to shortstop. I'm going to go to the White Sox. I'm going to go Tim Anderson. Yeah. He's been hitting great. And like the key is the position is not great. And because the position is not great, a lot of ownership is gravitating towards Willy Adames right now. And the guys up top, if you are going to go up there, they're probably going to go Trey Turner instead of Tim Anderson. I just think that's the natural thing to do. I would rather attack the ownership of the pitcher that's going to be way higher owned with Tim Anderson. Again, I get it. He is not going to project as well. Totally understand, but you're going to get him virtually unowned. And I want the virtually unowned guys at the position that is one that there's only one guy that all the ownership's gravitating towards. Because if that one guy busts, that can just kill all the lineups and help me out a lot where I can gain a lot of leverage on the field. So I'll go with Tim Anderson. The dude has not put up any zeros so far to start this year. He's been crushing the ball. I got some faith in my boy Tim Anderson to get the job done. So I'm going to plug him in there as my play of the day. Yes, it's expensive. I've already built out teams to DC, and like it's hard to do. And that's one reason why people will not do it. You just got to find a way to get it in there. And we didn't talk about Gavin Cheats. I'm not going to make him my play of the day, but if you're doing a White Sox stack, don't ignore Gavin Cheats in that 4-hole. He's definitely a good option. But that is going to wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. We're going to be back tomorrow talking MLB and DC. I hope you're ready because it's going to be a big slate. So I think we'll have more attendance for that one. It might even be like kind of like the main slate of the day, like we had last week with one of the slates. So we want to see you guys back there for that. DC, give your final thoughts before we leave.
Yeah, should be a fun one. I think, Mangone, the biggest stand we're making is not only fading Shane Bieber, but stacking against him. And, we'll see how that goes down. Obviously, you never know in baseball, but I feel pretty good about it, at least from a game theory perspective today. And should be a good one. We're back this afternoon, right? 4:45 Eastern, me, you, and Title. And then, as you mentioned, tomorrow morning, three DC and Mangone shows in 24 hours. Man, the people, how lucky are they? Yeah, I mean, ever since we linked up in Kentucky, the band's together, and it's going strong. We're just catching W's, and hopefully we can catch a W today. RPS Goats is attacking Bieber, bold strategy. Yeah, and like here's another thing too. It's not always about being right? It's about when you're right, how much you can earn off it, right? Yes. And if you think that you're right on the Bieber take that he's not as great. And like, I honestly think he might not pitch as many pitches too. Like there's a chance maybe he gets beat up after like 3 or 4, maybe not all the runs are hit. And then the bullpen comes in there and you take advantage of that. I just think there's a lot of ways it can go right. And at the ownership, it's worth it. So I'm with you on that. And I like doing it on these 5-game slates. That's where I think we can get some game theory involved and it can get interesting. So excited to see that. If it doesn't work, what do we do, DC? We keep firing. We'll be back at 4:45, firing away. And if that doesn't work, we'll come back tomorrow. We'll fire again until we get it right. So that'll wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining for me, Mangone, and DC. We'll see you guys later.